Hey Mama, it's Jocelyn here, and I am excited to share a guest with you. Thank you for listening to the Positivity in Pregnancy and Motherhood podcast. Today I have Cora, who will help you navigate some of the emotional overwhelm that can come with a C section. She's got a unique process that can help you to heal if you have struggled with the C section and some of the things that can come with having a C section. So let's jump into today's episode. Hi, I'm Jocelyn, host of the Positive in Pregnancy and Motherhood podcast. I help pregnant women and mothers to find positivity in their season of life through changing their thoughts to work for them and not against them. I help mothers find the small, doable steps in thought and action without making drastic changes to their everyday mom life. And I can help you. Thanks for joining. Hey, welcome to the Positivity in Pregnancy and Motherhood podcast. Today I'm excited to have a guest on with me. Her name is Cora. Cora is a C-section emotional resilience coach and mindfulness practitioner who helps moms reclaim their identity and emotional strength after a C-section. Through her Right to Heal process, Cora guides women to overcome feelings of loss, rebuild courage, and embrace personal growth. Her C-section healing circle and one-on-one coaching empower women to move from feeling fragmented to fully connected in their motherhood journey. Welcome to the podcast, Cora.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So, will you tell us a little bit about you and your story?
Okay. It's funny. I went to school for business and then I was working retail, moving up the chain. So at the time I was a supervisor and I had my oldest daughter, and it was a different experience. I had a C-section and I knew at 32 weeks that I was having one, and it kind of freaked me out because I thought, did I do something wrong? Did my body fail me? And my doctor somewhat reassured me, but he didn't really address those types of questions. So when I did go in, I did have her at 37 weeks. So I had her early, and the C-section was scheduled at 39 weeks. So my doctor checked on me physically, made sure I was healing. But when I told him, I was struggling mentally, he was like, change your job, do something different. I'm like, I don't think it's my job. I was like, I don't know what it is, but I was like, I just don't feel like myself. And the only thing he did was, offer me antidepressants, which I'm thankful for. And so, we can just put you in therapy, but he really never really addressed, my issues or anything. I did stay on the antidepressants for, I think, 3 to 4 months roughly. And
Okay.
then I started doing journaling, but I wasn't disciplined or very structured with it. It was kind of like here or there. And then I had my second daughter 18 months later. Um, and it kind of it was a mild depression. It wasn't as severe as the first one. But I took a year and I journaled day and night. And then I got more intentional with it. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to call this, but I'm going to be a little bit more intentional with what I'm writing, how I'm writing, and what I'm writing for. Um, so by the time my youngest was 1, I was better. I do still have days where I'm just kind of like, in a funk. But other than that, I write if I need to clear my mind. I write just about anything. I probably have more journals than I need. But my now what I do with other moms, because sometimes I do just work with nonprofits where I'll go in and like I'm like, get your pen and paper like we're in school. But with them, I normally say, describe how you're feeling. and I get them to name it because I never named my emotions. We never talked about emotions in my house. We never really showed any type of emotion. Like if you're upset, you shouldn't be upset. If you need to cry, don't cry in front of me. Like I was never hugged when I cried. So expressing my emotions and feeling all these different feelings, it was very unknown to me. So the only way I knew how to process it was to write it and give it a name and work through it. So what I do with my clients and the nonprofits I go in and volunteer at is we name their emotion, like what they're feeling. We give it a name and we kind of work through it and we transform it. So if they're feeling sad or they're grieving, we turn it into, peace or tranquility or honorment is one. We're not changing the situation. We're not changing what happened. We're just giving it new eyes, a new emotion, and a new feeling. Because emotions can stop us from doing a lot of things. They can hold us back. They can hold us in this comfortable state that isn't really good for us. But when we change and transform it into a different emotion, how it makes us feel, we're able to move forward and grow, whether that's personally or professionally. So that's
Ye-
how that came about.
Oh, I love that. Sometimes our trials are definitely what help us to help others and how we learn from that. And I love how um you tried to find ways to solve your problems instead of feeling like abandoned, like you didn't feel that in your home as a child. You instead use journaling to help yourself heal. That is so powerful. I was going to ask, did you have a C-section on your second one as well, or just your first?
Oh, I did. And the reason why I chose the second one, because I know right now, if people go online, it's more so like VBAC, do the second one. I decided to do it because I didn't want to risk that 50-50, and I also didn't have anyone like advocating for feedback at the time, and that was in 2019 before COVID. So,
Oh, gotcha.
no. So, yeah. So I
So
just opted
you,
for one.
oh, gotcha. Yeah, you definitely have experience with the C-sections, and I had one C-section, but the rest I did end up doing a VBAC. So I was just curious about that. But yeah, it can be a hard and traumatic thing. So I have a question. What unique emotional challenges do C-section moms face, and why do they often feel overlooked?
The scar. The scar is the biggest one. I know it for me personally, I always had an issue with my stomach. Um, and I always would eat off and on because I used to eat like a lot when I was younger. And then everybody's like, no, it's gonna catch up with you. So then I scaled back and I'm like, wait. And then like I started like I'll go on this like weight gain and weight loss thing. So when I had my C-section, it was kind of like I can't change that. Like that's there permanently. And so for a whole year, I couldn't look in the mirror. Like I would, get changed. I would make sure everything like was covered. I would make sure like, my stomach, like there was certain pants I would wear to flatten it because I worked in a space at the time where I was in front of people every day. I was helping other women. So I'm like, I want to feel confident, so I'm helping them feel confident. So I made sure that, everything was tucked away and nothing was like hanging. Um, and it was just kind of some days I just wanted to cry because I'm like, I'm doing all this work just to like appear like, oh, I'm happy, I'm confident, and then on the inside I'm like falling apart. Because everybody's like, it's just a scar. At least at least you had a healthy baby. And I'm like, well, no one's checking on me mentally, no one's checking on me emotionally. Everybody's just kind of like, at least you have a healthy baby. At least everything was okay. And I'm like, but no one's, it's different. You
Yes.
know? Yes. So that was
They
the hardest part.
they try to comfort you by saying the at least, but like you say, you're still struggling inside. And you're like,
Yeah.
that's I mean, at least yes, but at the same time, I'm still struggling. Um,
Exactly.
did you have more you wanted to say on that? I kind of interrupted you. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. So when I was like all the moms that would come in to the workplace, because I can't expose where I work because I signed a thing, but they would always tell me, you're a superwoman, you're amazing, because I would pump at work and I worked in a retail job. So like I'm working 8 hours on my feet. I got pump breaks, I'm helping women, I'm making sales, and I'm like, I feel like crap. Like every day I would come home, I would hold my daughter and I would just cry. Because I'm like, I'm capable of doing all these things. It's like before I had kids, I was always on the go. I was busy. I never sat down. I never relaxed. I'm figure out anything, can do anything. I'm always busy. And then when I had her, it was kind of like, I need a timeout. I need a break. And I feel like I never got it because I was always just on 100 every single day. And it was like, can I hold the baby? Can I do this? It was kind of like, can I hold the baby? No one ever asked me, can I hold her so you can take a nap? Can I hold her so you can go out and like live your life? Like I never got that. So it's kind of, I was struggling with that too. But also I didn't really speak up for myself until I started the healing process.
Gotcha. It takes some of those intentional moments to realize what we really need. And in hindsight, you're like, maybe I probably should have said something, but you don't oftentimes know what to say. So I hope as you keep sharing your story that other moms will be able to, like you say, give it a name and begin to heal.
Yes.
So you've talked a lot about writing. How does your Write to Heal process support emotional resilience and personal growth?
So we're taking that word. So for me, when I had my first C-section, I felt betrayal, and not betrayal in the sense of like God or any other spiritual religious thing. It was more so betrayal physically in my body because I've worked so hard. I'm like, I was in shape. I walked 6 miles while I was pregnant, and I was like, I felt like I was in control. And so then my doctor told me, your baby's breached and we're gonna have to do a C-section. I'm just kind of like, he's like, I can't turn the baby because your stomach's so tight. And then I started thinking, well, did I work out too much? Did I go too hard? Should I have not worked too much? Should I have stayed off my feet? Like I started questioning myself, and then those intrusive thoughts started coming in my head. So when I started to write it out, I started to see, things happen. There are things outside of my control. There are things that are meant to happen to us to make us either grow or to put us out of certain situations for a healthier version of ourselves. I started to look at life itself from different perspectives that I never looked at it before. Like I feel like I was going through my own metamorphosis in a way, and I was kind of witnessing it, but like I'm the main character type thing. Oh yeah.
I love that. So writing help you to find emotional resilience. And would you just write about like what came to mind or did you have specific prompts?
At the time, I focused on, okay, at the end of the day, I would basically take all the things that made me upset or depressed, and I would turn them into happier thoughts. So if another mom that I was helping told me, I think Cora is a super mom and I wish I could be like her. I started thinking about different aspects of myself that I loved about myself, and that's what, I would write about. I didn't write about the negative things or my intrusive thoughts that were coming in my head. I would think about what positive aspects is this particular person seeing in me to call me a supermom, and I don't feel like it. And I wrote about it. And each time that would happen, I started to, I guess, feel it energetically. And I started to I smiled more slowly but surely. And, I would laugh with them. And I started to feel less like, okay, maybe I am a super mom. Like I started to think about it, like maybe I am. Then it started to make me kind of giddy because I looked at it from their perspective. Like, what do you see in me that I don't see in myself? Because obviously you see something that I don't see. So it helped give me a new reality of myself when I started to look at it from someone else's point of view.
Oh, I love that. I've never thought of it like looking at it from someone's point of view. When you first started talking, you kind of talked about how you would focus on like the things you love about yourself. And I think that's powerful because in pregnancy and postpartum and C-section, it can be easy, like you say, to focus on the negative. But shifting
Mhm.
that to finding things you love about yourself, that's powerful. And that's something I talk about frequently in our and on my podcast as well, is to reshift from the negative to the positive, but I had never thought of it from the perspective of someone else, why they would see the good in you and like getting excited about it. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love
Yes.
it. Do you have something else you'd like to say on that before I move to the next question?
Yes. I would also say that when we have our village, whoever that is in that village, friends, family, coworkers, whomever, um, I believe they mean no harm when they don't ask us, like, what we need or anything. I think we can shift in our verbiage because I know I would ask my mom, hey, can I go get a nap? Like, I was very vocal with the second one. Can I take 5 minutes to like go get a nap? Like, can you come over and just watch her so I can take a shower? And what happened is it transformed the dynamic my mother and I had. Then it started a dynamic, changed the dynamic of my me and my sister's bond. Like they started to eventually ask me, what do you need? When I started saying, hey, can you watch so I can eat? Because, it's kind of hard when you're a baby, like, I was breastfeeding, so it's kind of like, I want to eat, but then she's like always hungry. So it started to help more without me having to ask because I opened kind of like that door of communication and that vulnerability to say, hey, I do need help, but I do need to focus on me too, because I'm important too.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
I love that. Sometimes it actually oftentimes for us women we want to, like you say, do it all and be Wonder Star, but it can be too much and it can be overwhelming. And taking the moment to ask for help, it took me like two pregnancies to figure that out too, like that it was hard and I did need help. I did need someone to help with the baby so I could rest. Or postpartum, I needed more help than I wanted to admit. But when you have that help, it, like you say, it opens the communication for others to come in and be willing to help because they see that you're willing to take it now. So I appreciate you sharing that part with us. What advice would you offer moms who feel overwhelmed post C-section?
To find that safe space. It's so funny. My 5-year-old was talking to me yesterday and she was like, we talked about safe spaces today. And I said, okay. I was like, you're talking about that in kindergarten? She's like, yeah. She said, my teacher told me about the safe space. And she's like, it's always that one person that you can be vulnerable with, that you can just, whenever you're feeling down or you're feeling angry, they can help get you back to this place of balance. Mind you, she's 5. And I said, okay. And I was like, that's what I talk about with my clients. She goes, I know. She's like, I told my teacher. So I said, well, who's your safe space? She's like, Mom, I told her it was you. And she said, I told her about the clients you help too. And then she goes, you're my safe space. She's like, you're always gonna be my safe space. She's like, because you're always gonna tell me what I can improve on, what I need to do. And she's like, you're always gonna tell me about this beautiful strategy because she's like, you're good at those. And so you're gonna get me back to a place of happy. She's like, I trust you. So
Oh, that's so tender.
right. So I would say that to moms too. Find that safe person that would get you back to a place of, being open and curious and just in a neutral state. And even I always tell my clients to do something creative. And they go, do you just want me to be busy? I'm like, no. I'm like, if you like to paint before you had kids, I always say start there. Start with something that you know. So start with something creative that is uh what's the word? Related to you. Maybe that's not the word, but something that you know how to do or that you did prior. And normally it helps kind of get their creative mind kind of stimulated in a way, not to get too neuroscience here, but it kind of gets you back to a place of balance a lot quicker than talking to someone. Because then it kind of helps neutralize your thoughts as well. And then if painting, which is what you used to love, doesn't work, you can try incorporating painting with, your baby or with, someone in your village. Or you can just find something new, like go to a pottery class, just anything that's creative that makes you laugh, makes you paint something, you look back at it and you cry tears of happiness or relief. It's kind of like you're releasing whatever you're feeling. So if it's overwhelm or stress or anxiety at that particular moment, kind of helps you to stop thinking about it and gets you to this other place. And maybe you'll figure out, if you're stressing about, let's say, a bill and you start to paint, and then you probably come up with a solution while you're painting. And you're like, oh, I was stressing about that for no reason. Or you're anxious about, your next doctor's appointment and you start to paint and you're like, I'm fine. I've been eating okay. I've been losing, the weight, or I'm healing okay with my C-section scar. It kind of gets you back to a place of like, I'm going to empty out my brain of all these intrusive thoughts. And then I'm going to fill it with a solution, or I'm going to fill it with something joyful that I like to do. And it's going to help kind of cleanse you and then revitalize you. And then you're like, okay, I was stressing or anxious for no reason.
I love that. I do something similar with my people, but I call it the art of distraction. But I also like you just almost distract yourself from thinking about all the negative thoughts by reincorporating these creative endeavors. But you worded it so much better about how it helps you release that negative to heal and revitalize you when you do something that you love. I think that's something powerful that we forget as women because it can be so easy just to sit there and scroll rather than
Hmm.
getting out the paints, but that doesn't help us to heal. And so I love everything you've said so far. Is so it encourages you to heal, to be more positive, and to overcome these difficult things in motherhood that can kind of change us. Earlier, you also mentioned how they can change us so that we grow or we move to a more healthy version of us. And I think that's what you and I are both trying to do in our works is to help others through what we've been through to find healthier versions of themselves or to grow. So I really, I mean, I don't know. I just love what you've said so far.
Thank
Did you
you.
have anything you wanted to add to that?
Um, it's okay to be adventurous. So I mean that in the midst of, if you want to step outside your comfort zone and do something creative that you never thought of, I would always suggest to do it because it could be transformational. I'm not saying go skydiving, but if you wanted to do like, body art or sip and paint or what is it, a pottery play class, or make up something. Because I mean, there's so many things you can make up. You can be, I mean, that's just our, our creativity juices flowing. Um, or you could even start, I mean, I think one of my clients started to decorate for different uh, businesses, like their event parties, and it helped her heal. And then she made a business out of it. So, I
Oh,
mean, just be
cool.
creative.
That's awesome. You never know where it can lead.
Exactly. Yeah, that's all I had.
Awesome. That sounds good. Um, Before we close, is there any other advice that you have for pregnant or recently postpartum, specifically C-section mamas that you'd like to share?
If you can't voice what you're feeling or what you want to say, write yourself a note. Don't give that note to anybody because sometimes the very first note you write may not be so nice or it may not say the things that you want it to say. I would always say give that second note that you write because it's going to be more filtered and more concise and structured in a different way. Give that note to either your husband, your mom, your dad, your doctor, so they can kind of read it and see what's going on. Because sometimes when we voice our feelings that very first time, we don't really understand what we're feeling, and we're not really ready to take the step to either tell the doctor, go to the therapist, or join, a support group of that kind. Um, it kind of helps gets us, it's like that first foot in the door. This is how I'm feeling. I really can't describe it, but here's, my letter. And if you can't give it to someone, just kind of leave it and say, hey, I left you a letter. Um, I think it's kind of like one of those things how we were in high school and we would write letters because sometimes we didn't want to tell people out loud what we were feeling. So I think that still works. Just write the letter if you can't voice it. And if you're going to the doctor and you're having, feeling depressed or anxious or however you're feeling, um, you can give that letter to the doctor, to the therapist, because sometimes when we get there, we're like, we're gonna tell them everything we need to tell them so we can get better, right? But then we get there and we either choke, we don't say everything, or the therapist or the doctor is saying so many things and it's overwhelming that we don't remember everything we wanted to say. So that letter kind of locks in everything that we wanted to say so we're not, overwhelmed, we're not kind of confused, like maybe I don't feel that way because they're using different words and I don't know. So it kind of gets us like, okay, here's this, you read it, and then you let me know. I mean, you can even email if you don't want to handwrite a letter. So yeah, that's my advice.
I love that. I sometimes, like you say, it's easier to write it down. Especially when I'm pregnant, but I just tend to be a more emotional woman than probably most. And so like stuff when I'm talking about the hard things that I'm dealing with, I often cry and then I get embarrassed about crying. But if I just hand them a letter, I don't even really have to cry in front of them, but they can still hear or read, I guess, how I'm
Yeah.
feeling. So that's a really good advice. That's what I wanted to say. Um, so Cora is awesome. All of her information will be in the show notes, and she also has a free resource for you guys. It's a powerful 30-minute exercise that's designed to spark tremendous breakthroughs in emotional resilience and self-awareness. An exercise that has transformed lives and empowered many clients to reclaim their strength. So if you are one of those moms, especially struggling after a C-section, I encourage you to find all of her information in the show notes and connect with Cora so that you can learn from the things she has learned and heal as well. Do you have anything you'd like to add, Cora, before we close this call?
I hope that each and every one of you that are listening has the courage to do something that gets you out of this silent, dark space and into a space of light and happiness.
Oh, I love that. I feel the same way. It's been such a joy to talk with you. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Thank you for being a part of the Positive in Pregnancy and Motherhood podcast, for listening, for sharing, and most of all, for applying these tools into your own life to improve your own happiness so that you can find your own better thoughts for a better you in a positive pregnancy, in losing that stubborn baby weight, and becoming the mom you desire to be through taking small steps in thought and action to reach your goals. If you are a mother who has an inner desire to enjoy motherhood and pregnancy better, but you are having difficulty figuring it out, I can help you. I can help you find the small, doable steps without drastic changes to your everyday mom life. Reach out, let's connect, and let's see you move forward. My name is Jocelyn, and I thank you for listening. Until next time,